The sound of tiny fists pounding against the locked bedroom door echoed through the mansion like thunder. 5-year-old Zara's voice cracked as she screamed with all her might. "I can't stand anymore. Please let me out. I miss my daddy." Her small body collapsed against the cold wooden door, tears streaming down her dark cheeks as she whispered, "Mommy, why did you leave me with her?" The little girl had been trapped in her bedroom for 3 long days with nothing but a few crackers and a half-empty water bottle that her stepmother had carelessly thrown on the floor before locking her away from the world. Her tiny stomach growled with hunger pains that felt like sharp knives cutting through her belly, and her throat was so dry that each word she spoke felt like sandpaper scraping against raw skin. 3 floors below, Damon Washington sat in his black Rolls-Royce in the circular driveway of his sprawling estate, staring at his phone with tired eyes that had seen too many boardrooms and not enough of his daughter's smile. The richest man in Atlanta had just closed another billion-dollar deal that would expand his tech empire across 3 more states. But something deep in his soul felt wrong and empty. His heart was heavy as he scrolled through photos on his phone. Stopping at the last picture he had taken with Zara before leaving for his 2-week business trip to California and New York. Her bright smile and missing front tooth reminded him so much of his late wife Kesa that it felt like someone was squeezing his heart with an iron fist, making it almost impossible to breathe normally. Damon didn't know that while he was away in conference rooms and luxury hotels building his business empire, his new wife, Jennifer, had been treating his precious daughter like a prisoner in her own home. The woman he had married 6 months ago, thinking she would bring joy and motherly love to their family, had instead brought cruelty and hatred that was slowly destroying his little girl's spirit. Jennifer had locked Zara in her room for 3 days straight, giving her only enough food and water to survive, telling the house staff that the child was being punished for misbehaving and that no one was allowed to check on her or bring her anything. Damon walked through the front door of his massive home with its crystal chandeliers and marble floors. He expected to hear Zara's happy voice calling, "Daddy's home! Daddy's home!" like she always did when he returned from business trips. Instead, the house was eerily quiet except for the soft classical music playing from the expensive sound system built into the walls. Jennifer appeared at the top of the grand staircase wearing a perfectly applied fake smile that didn't reach her cold blue eyes, her blonde hair styled flawlessly as if she had just stepped out of a beauty salon. "Welcome home, darling Jennifer," said sweetly, but her eyes were cold as winter ice. "Zara is taking a nap. She's been such a good girl while you were gone." Her voice had that fake, cheerful tone that she used when she was lying, and Damon had heard that tone before but had always chosen to ignore it because he desperately wanted to believe that Jennifer could love his daughter the way Kaisha had loved her. Something in Jennifer's voice made Damon stop in the middle of the marble foyer. His designer briefcase still in his hand and his expensive suit wrinkled from the long flight home. He knew his daughter better than anyone in the world, and Zara never took naps this late in the day because she was always full of boundless energy, running around the house like a little tornado, asking a million questions about everything she saw and heard. She would chase butterflies in the garden, play with her dolls, and beg him to read her favorite story about the princess who saved herself without needing a prince. "Where is she?" "Exactly?" Damon asked, his voice getting serious and deep in the way that made his business competitors nervous during negotiations. His dark eyes searched Jennifer's face for any sign of deception, and he noticed how she couldn't quite meet his gaze directly. In her room, sleeping peacefully like an angel, Jennifer replied, but her hands were fidgeting with her expensive jewelry, and her voice trembled slightly. She took a step backward, as if she was preparing to run away from whatever was about to happen next. Damon started walking up the curved staircase, his expensive Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble, steps with each determined stride. The sound echoed through the house like a countdown to disaster. That's when he heard it. A weak, whimpering sound coming from the direction of Zara's bedroom at the end of the long hallway. His heart stopped beating for a moment and then started racing so fast he thought it might burst right out of his chest. He rushed to Zara's door and tried to turn the handle, expecting it to open easily like it always did, locked. The sound of weak crying became clearer now through the thick wooden door, and he could hear his little girl's voice calling for him. His precious daughter was trapped in there, and she sounded hurt and scared and desperate. "Jennifer!" Damon shouted so loud that the crystal chandelier above them seemed to shake, and the walls vibrated with the force of his anger. "Why is my daughter's door locked? Why can't I get to my child?" His voice was like thunder rolling across the sky before a terrible storm filled with a rage that he had never felt before in his entire life. Jennifer came running up the stairs, her high heels clicking frantically against the marble. Her face now pale with terror because she knew that her evil secret was about to be discovered. "I can explain, Damon. She was being difficult and disrespectful. And I thought that maybe if she spent some time alone, she would learn to behave better." "And you thought, what?" Damon's voice was like thunder and lightning combined, and his eyes blazed with a fury that could have burned down mountains. He had never been this angry in his entire life. Not even when his biggest business rival had tried to steal his company's secrets or when he had lost millions of dollars in a bad investment. "Where are the keys to my daughter's room right now?" With shaking hands that trembled like autumn leaves. In a strong wind, Jennifer reached into her pocket and pulled out the keys. Damon snatched them from her so quickly that she gasped and stepped backward. He unlocked the door with fingers that shook with rage and pushed it open so hard that it banged against the wall. What he saw when he looked into that room broke his heart into a million tiny pieces that scattered across his soul like broken glass. Zara was curled up in the corner of her room like a wounded animal trying to hide from danger. Her beautiful purple dress that had been clean and pretty when he left was now dirty and wrinkled and stained with tears. Her lips were dry and cracked. Her big brown eyes were red and swollen from crying, and she looked so small and fragile that she seemed like she might blow away if someone breathed too hard. When she saw her father standing in the doorway, she tried to stand up on shaky legs but stumbled and almost fell down because she was so weak from not eating or drinking enough. "Daddy," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible like the sound of wind through dry leaves. "You came back for me? I thought you forgot about me forever." Her words were so quiet that Damon had to strain to hear them, and each word felt like a dagger being pushed into his heart. Damon dropped to his knees on the carpeted floor and scooped his daughter into his arms, holding her against his chest like she was the most precious treasure in the entire universe. She felt lighter than usual, like a little bird that hadn't eaten in days. And her skin was warm with fever that made him panic with worry. "Oh, my baby girl, what happened to you? What did she do to my beautiful daughter? Daddy's here now. Daddy's here, and I'm never going to let anyone hurt you again." Zara buried her face in her father's chest and sobbed with tears that seemed to come from the deepest part of her soul. "She locked me in here for days and days. Daddy," she said, "you didn't want me anymore because I was too much trouble. She said I was a bad girl because I looked like Mommy, and she said that you were going to send me away to live with strangers who wouldn't love me." The words poured out of her like water from a broken dam, and each sentence made Damon's heart break even more. Those words hit Damon like a lightning bolt that split him in two. He looked up at Jennifer, who was standing in the doorway looking, terrified and guilty, her face white as paper and her hands shaking. The woman he had married, thinking she would bring joy and love into their lives. The woman he had trusted with his most precious gift, had he hurt his baby girl in ways that might never heal completely. "Get out," Damon said quietly. But his voice was deadly serious like the calm before a hurricane that would destroy everything in its path. Pack your things and get out of my house right now before I do something that we'll both regret forever. Damon, please let me explain what really happened, Jennifer started to say, but her voice was shaking and her words sounded hollow and fake. Get out, Damon roared with a voice that seemed to shake the entire mansion from its foundation to its roof. Get out before I call the police and have you arrested for child abuse and neglect. Get out before I forget that I'm a gentleman and do something that will land me in jail. His rage was so intense that veins bulged in his neck and his hands clenched into fists that could have punched through walls. Jennifer ran from the room like a frightened animal, her high heels clicking frantically down the marble hallway as she fled from the consequences of her cruelty. Damon didn't care about her anymore, or where she went, or what happened to her after she left. All that mattered in the entire universe was Zara, his precious daughter, who had suffered while he was away, living in luxury hotels and eating expensive meals. He carried his daughter carefully down the stairs and into the kitchen, moving slowly so he wouldn't hurt her fragile body. He gave her small sips of water from a glass, watching as she drank, like she hadn't had anything to drink for days, which was probably true. Then he made her favorite sandwich with peanut butter and jelly cut into heart shape just like her mother used to make. And he sat with her at the kitchen table while she ate slowly with tiny bites, because her stomach had shrunk from not eating properly. "Daddy, I thought you forgot about me and didn't love me anymore," Zara said between small bites of her sandwich, her voice still weak, but getting a little stronger with each word she spoke. "Never, baby girl, never in a million years could I forget about you or stop loving you," Damon said, stroking her soft curly hair that was so much like her mother's hair. "You are the most important thing in my whole world, more important than all my money and all my businesses and everything else combined. But Jennifer said that you told her I was too much trouble and that you wished I had never been born," Zara said, and fresh tears started rolling down her cheeks. She said, "That's why you went away for so long, because you didn't want to be around me anymore." Jennifer was lying, sweetheart. She was just a very mean and jealous lady who doesn't understand how special and wonderful and perfect you are, Damon said, and he felt his heart breaking all over again at the thought of the terrible things Jennifer had said to his innocent daughter. Zara looked up at her father with those big brown eyes that reminded him so much of Kaisha, eyes that had seen too much pain for someone so young. "Daddy, will you ever leave me again? Will you ever go away and let someone hurt me?" Damon felt tears forming in his own eyes, something that rarely happened because he had trained himself to be strong and controlled in all situations. He had been so focused on making money and growing his business empire that he had left his daughter alone with a monster who had nearly destroyed her spirit. "Zara, I promise you something right now. And when Daddy makes a promise, he never breaks it. I will never ever leave you alone with someone who doesn't love you exactly the way I love you. I will never put my work or my money or anything else before your safety and happiness." Over the next few days, Damon canceled all his business meetings and conference calls, something he had never done before in his entire career. He fired Jennifer's friends who had been working in the house and had probably known what she was doing to Zara, but had said nothing to protect his daughter. He hired Mrs. Robinson, an elderly African-American woman who had raised 5 children of her own and whose eyes filled with tears when she first saw. Zara understood what the little girl had been through. Mrs. Robinson took one look at Zara and said, "This child needs love and attention and healing, not just fancy clothes and expensive toys. She needs someone to hold her when she has nightmares, and cook her meals with love and teach her that she matters." "That's exactly what I was thinking," Damon replied, and he knew he had found the right person to help him take care of his daughter. Mrs. Robinson became like a grandmother to Zara, filling the house with the smell of homemade biscuits and fried chicken and sweet potato pie. She cooked soul food that reminded Zara of the stories her daddy told about his own childhood growing up with his grandmother in Alabama. She braided Zara's hair in beautiful, intricate patterns, while telling her stories about strong African-American women throughout history who had overcome terrible challenges and changed the world with their courage and determination. But the biggest change came in Damon himself, and it was a change that surprised everyone who knew him. Every morning he woke up at sunrise to make Zara breakfast, and they would sit together at the kitchen table planning their day while she ate pancakes shaped like animals or French toast, cut into stars. Damon started working from his home office more often so he could be near his daughter. And when he absolutely had to go to important meetings, he took Zara with him instead of leaving her at home. As the months passed slowly by, Zara began to heal in ways that amazed everyone who knew her story. She laughed more often, her giggle filling the mansion with joy that had been missing for so long. She played with her toys again, creating elaborate stories with her dolls about brave princesses who saved their kingdoms. She started asking those million questions again that showed her curious mind was working and growing stronger every day. Damon discovered wonderful things about his daughter that he had never noticed before because he had been too busy with work to pay attention. She loved to paint pictures of butterflies and flowers and houses with happy families inside them, and she was incredibly talented for someone so young. She could solve math problems that impressed even him, adding and subtracting numbers in her head faster than some adults could do with calculators. She had inherited her mother's beautiful singing voice and would make up songs about everything. She saw and did during the day. One day, about 2 months after Jennifer had been thrown out of their lives forever, Zara asked her father a question that surprised him and showed him how much his daughter had been thinking about everything that had happened to her. "Daddy, why did Jennifer not like me? Was it because I have dark skin and she has light skin? Was it because I look like Mommy and she wished I looked like her instead?" Damon thought carefully about his answer because he wanted to be completely honest with his daughter while still protecting her innocent heart from the ugliness of racism and jealousy. He knew this was an important conversation that could shape how Zara saw herself and the world around her. Some people, Zara, they have hurt and anger inside their hearts that makes them do terrible things to other people. When people have deep hurt in their hearts that they never healed. Sometimes they hurt innocent people like children. It wasn't about you being bad or wrong in any way, baby girl. You are absolutely perfect, just the way God made you with your beautiful dark skin and your smart mind and your kind heart. That night, after Zara had fallen asleep clutching her favorite stuffed elephant that had been a gift from her mother, Damon sat in his home office and made a decision that would change not only their lives, but the lives of thousands of other children. He spent hours on his computer and on the phone with lawyers and accountants, creating something that had never existed before. He established the Zara Washington Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping children who had lost parents, were in foster care, or were living in difficult family situations where they weren't being loved and protected the way every child deserves. The foundation would provide not just money, but also emotional support, educational opportunities, safe housing, and most importantly, help matching children with families who would love them unconditionally. Damon wanted to make sure that no child would ever have to go through what Zara had experienced, locked in a room and told they weren't wanted or loved. A year later, the Zara Washington Foundation had helped over 800 children find loving homes, or get the support and resources they desperately needed. Damon and Zara traveled together to hospitals, schools, community centers, and foster homes, bringing hope and practical help to kids who had almost given up on finding happiness. Zara had become a confident, articulate little girl who spoke to groups of adults about the importance of loving and protecting all children, especially those who were different or had experienced trauma. She would end every speech the same way, standing tall and proud in front of audiences that included judges, social workers, potential adoptive parents, and community leaders. Every kid in the whole world needs someone who thinks they're the most important and special person ever born. I'm lucky because my daddy thinks I'm that amazing and he shows me every single day. But lots of kids don't have that, and that's not fair. We have to be the people who help them find love. One day, as they were leaving a children's hospital where they had been visiting kids with cancer and bringing them toys and books, Zara tugged on her father's sleeve with something important on her mind. "Daddy, I figured something out and it's really important," she said in that serious voice that meant she had been thinking deeply. "When Jennifer locked me in that room and said all those mean things to me, I thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone in the whole world. But now I know it was actually a good thing that happened for a reason, because it made you realize that I needed you more than your business meetings and your money needed you. And because of what happened to me, we started the foundation, and now we help hundreds and hundreds of other kids who were sad and scared like I was. If Jennifer had been nice to me, you might never have understood how much children need their parents to put them first. And all those other kids would still be waiting for someone to save them." Damon stopped walking and knelt down on the sidewalk to his daughter's level, not caring that people were walking around them or that his expensive suit was getting wrinkled. This 7-year-old girl had just taught him the most important lesson about life, pain, and purpose that he had ever learned from anyone. "Zara, you are the wisest, most incredible person I know, and I learn something new from you every single day," he said, holding her hands in his. "I learned it from watching you, Daddy. You taught me that sometimes really bad things happen so that really good things can happen later, and that we can take our sad experiences and use them to help other people feel better." As they walked to their car, Damon realized that the day he had come home to find Zara locked in her room, weak and frightened and begging for help, was actually the day his real life had begun. Not his life as a billionaire businessman who was respected and feared in boardrooms across the country, but his life as Zara's father, protector, and biggest supporter. That was the most important and meaningful job he would ever have, and everything else was just details. That evening, as Damon tucked Zara into her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and books and drawings she had made, she asked him the same question she had asked every night for the past 2 years. "Daddy, will you always love me the most out of everyone in the whole world?" And Damon gave her the same answer he would give her every night for the rest of his life. The answer that had become their special ritual of love and security. "Always and forever, baby girl, you are my heart, walking around outside my body, and nothing in this world will ever be more important to me than you. You are my greatest success, my biggest blessing, and my whole reason for living." The story that had begun with a desperate child's cries for help had transformed into a tale of healing, hope, unconditional love, and the unbreakable bond between a father and daughter who had saved each other and were now saving countless other children together.